Hello, I'm Bernie Hayes. Today's guest is Mr. Greg Carr, professor, lecturer, activist, today on The Bernie Hayes Show. And welcome back. Greg Carr, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, Bernie. How are you?
Fine. Greg, what do you do? What's at Harris-Stowe State University?
I'm an assistant professor of theater in the College of Social Sciences, Arts, and Humanities.
Wow. What does that mean?
Well, it basically means I am responsible for teaching theater classes and doing productions and anything that deals with theater and acting, or the whole idea of art, and performance art.
Good. You just recently closed a production. Tell us about that.
Yes, we closed a production called The Colored Museum by George C. Wolfe.
Wow.
It was a play that was written back in 1986. And what it does is it's a satire and comedy of the different ways that we hold taboos in the black community. Particularly, we have a scenario called The Last Mama on the Couch play, which satirizes two of black America's sacred plays, A Raisin in the Sun and For Colored Girls Who've Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough by Ntozake Shange and Lorraine Hansberry, respectively. And George C. Wolfe does a parody of the entire thing, satirizes it, makes the Walter Lee character this melodramatic character, and everybody does everything melodramatically. And I got a chance to get into the act, even though I was in the booth. There's a line after this Walter Lee character is overacting. He says, Walter Lee Bo Willie Jones, come out with your hands up. You have been convicted of overacting. Come out with your hands up. And of course, we reenact all these different scenarios. So it's very hilarious. And we needed a laugh right around now. So people thoroughly enjoyed laughing.
Raisin and Colored Girls. That's good kind of combination, man.
Sacred cows.
Yes, goodness. That's wonderful. Greg, you know, you've been associated, I've known you for years and years and years, and I've always associated with acting and directing, but also remember you as an activist. So, I mean, you've done so many things. The people who hear Greg Carr's name, some will say, oh, he's a wonderful actor, wonderful producer, wonderful director. But others says, oh, Greg Carr, he makes some wonderful changes for us, especially African-American people and people in general public. Tell us about your history, Greg.
Well, Bernie,
especially with activism, you know what
I think I'm a
always
born
tease you
activist.
about.
I'm a born activist, and the reason why I say I'm a born activist is I learned it from my parents.
Okay.
My parents were from the South. They were from Kentucky. My father, I would say between my father and my mother, very proud to say, they were working class people. The education between my father and mother would average an 8th grade education. My mother got to the 10th grade, my father got to the 6th grade. So if I average it out, it's about an 8th grade education. But they were very smart people. One incident I remember, my father was a very soft-spoken man in public. Of course, he was very different in private, but in public, he was very shy.
Sure.
And we were in Kentucky, his hometown of Henderson, Kentucky, and we often would go on this 2-week vacation, because he loved taking us camping. We would go to Kentucky Lake down to Paducah, Kentucky for a week, and we would simply fish for an entire week, and then we'd go spend a week in his hometown in Henderson, Kentucky. After we finished being at Kentucky Lake, we went to Henderson, Kentucky, and we went to this restaurant that he had always gone to when he was younger, but it was segregated at the time, but now it's no longer segregated. So I think he wanted to show that his hometown had made some progress. And he was very happy to be able to go into the front door because he lived in that era of Jim Crow.
Right.
And so he ordered, because he knew they made good chicken there. He said, I want the chicken family meal with the biscuits and potatoes and gravy and the green beans. And he could tell that the young lady who was being a waitress was very nervous. And so she wrote this thing down very quick. And he said, let me repeat it to you again. I want the family dinner with the green beans and the biscuits and the mashed potatoes. You got that? Yeah, yes. She came back with a whole tray of hot dogs, Bernie.
Oh, my God.
And she said, well, here are your hot dogs. He said, I never said hot dogs. Said, oh, yes, you did. And so she got upset, started crying, and went to the manager. And he said, what's the problem? He said, I ordered the family dinner with the chicken. and the biscuits. I told her 3 times. He said, well, I believe her. If she said you ordered hot dogs, boy, and he called him my father, boy, this grown man, boy.
Here we go again.
And he said, oh, you know something? I know what you can do with your hot dogs. He said, let's go. And he got up. He said, what you going to do with all this food? He said, I'm not paying for that. He said, let's go. We're going to go down the street. He said, I should have gone to my own people. So we ended up going down to one of his own people. We got some soul food. And so that was one bit, in a very quiet way.
That stuck with you all your life, didn't it?
That stuck with me my whole life.
Sure, yeah.
Because he had taken a public stand. He could have easily said, okay, y'all, we're going to eat the hot dogs. My father said, no, that's not what I ordered.
Precisely, yeah.
You know, and then remember Venture. We used to have Venture back in the day. Venture was like the precursor of Target, you know, the big retail store.
Oh, yeah, Venture store, yeah.
And I remember Venture, like Walmart and Sam's Club has the gasoline. They have their own gasoline stations. And so my mother pulled up to a gas pump first, and then 2 other cars filled with white people pulled up. This is the day when you had the full service. Mm-hmm. Even though the man in the window saw my mother pull up first, he ran and serviced the 2 white customers first. And my mother was just steaming. But she sat there and kept her cool, and I watched her. And then the man finally, after about 10 minutes, came, can I help you? She said, I want a full tank of gas. Fill it up. I want the whole shebang. And he said, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Wiped off the windows, checked the tires, and filled up the gas tank. And gas was so cheap at that time. To fill up the tank, it was $5. Mm-hmm. That was a fill up.
I remember.
And she was about to hand her the $5 bill, and she pulled it back when he reached for it. She said, what color was the money of those 2 white people you served before me? And you saw me get here first. He said, green, man. Why do you ask? She said, don't ever forget that. Green goes before black or white. My money's just as good as theirs. Don't you ever do that again. And he said, yes, man. And I was like, wow. But my mother was very calculated with that. She was just very, very calculated. So I would say my activism came from my parents in very small ways. And then when I got to school and I saw injustices at my school, I said, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And I would protest. And if I protested, I would let my parents know. And one of the things I can recall was, and I think I'm a big literature person to this day, my freshman English teacher in high school had this list of all the great American authors. Bernie, it was 4 pages long. Hemingway, Steinbeck, William Faulkner. You just go on and on and on and on. 4 pages. And after the 4 pages was over, I raised my hand and said, yes, Mr. Carr, what do you want? I said, is Langston Hughes a great American writer, Miss Corbett? She said, Mr. Carr, I don't like the tone of your voice. I just wanted to know, because you got 4 pages of great American writers, and I just want to know if Langston Hughes is one of them. She said one more time, I'm going to send you to the principal's office. I said, ma'am, I just want to know. She said, get out of my class, Mr. Carr. Go to the principal's office and don't come back. I said, yes, ma'am. And I was thinking I was going to go to the principal's office and meet with my principal, who was a very mild-mannered gentleman. Yeah. His name was Mr. Wicks. But instead, his assistant principal was there. And his name was Mr. Moore. Everybody feared Mr. Moore because he looked like the human incarnation of the Grinch, Bernie.
Yeah,
he had even the eyebrows and everything.
Really?
And he was a Southerner, too.
Yeah.
And so when I got there, he said, Mr. Carr, what are you doing in my office on a Friday afternoon? Did you do something in class? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you in trouble? I said, no, sir. He said, what'd you do? I said, I asked my teacher about this list of great American writers. So what'd you say? I said, I asked, wasn't Langston Hughes on there? He said, were you disrespectful? I said, because I know your mom. I said, no, sir. He said, well, I'm going to write you a pass, and you take it back to class. Don't you look at what the message I wrote on. Don't you dare look at it. You hear me, sir? I said, yes, sir. I will not look at it. Because I'll know if you looked at it. And so I'm walking down the hall, and as soon as I got to the door, I opened it up. I said, and it was 3 words on it. So at that time, Welcome Back, Kotter was on television. That was a popular show.
Sure.
And I loved the character Epstein. And so Epstein's big thing was, hey, I got a note. So I bounced. I said, I got a note. And the class started laughing. And I handed it to my English teacher. She said, what are you doing back, Mr. I said, Mr. Morris, I could come back to class. And she looked at the message on there, and her face turned white. All the blood left her face. She said, Mr. Carr, have a seat. Don't say anything to the rest of the class. I said, yes, ma'am. And then after that class, she said, class, the assignment for reading is going to be A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Everybody's going to read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, except Mr. Carr. He's going to read The Learning Tree by Gordon Parks. And I went, I said, well, she said, you asked for a black author. I'm going to give you one. And I need a book report a week from today. And so I started reading this, Bernie. I had never really read, I talked about black authors, but I never really read one per se. I read it the entire weekend.
That's great.
Had the book report on Monday. And so when I came in on Monday, Ms. Corbett said, so how's the book going? I said, it was great. She said, what do you mean it was great? I said, here's my book report. And she said, Mr. Carr, if you just applied yourself, I said, yes, ma'am, I agree, but we need more people on your list. She said, ooh, I'm going to get you. But here's the thing. 3 words were written on that pass, Bernie.
What were they?
Answer his question.
Beautiful. Greg Carr is my guest, and we'll talk about his activism, and we'll come back and talk about his authorship. He's an author, he's an actor, he's a producer, he's a writer, he's so much more. From Harris-Stowe State University, Greg Carr is my guest, and we'll be right back after this.
Just drive downtown St. Louis, drive by City Hall, and you'll see, what do they do? For a year now, a fence is all the way around City Hall and neighboring parks to keep the homeless people out. You talk about a visible enlightenment as to NIMBY and how it exists. Just take a look at St. Louis City Hall. Not in my backyard is what they're saying, but they're not alone. So many other people are saying not in my backyard when it comes to the hurting and the homeless. So where are they going to go? What are they going to do? We haven't seen a single new shelter open in the city of St. Louis for 15 years due to something called plat and petition. And it's not just the city of St. Louis, it's St. Louis County, Jefferson County, Franklin County, Madison County, St. Clair County in Illinois. What are they doing? They want to ship their homeless to St. Louis. That's wrong. We have to see each county taking care of their own homeless people. And that's why we may have to file a lawsuit in the near future against Jefferson County and St. Charles County and St. Louis County to take care of their own homeless according to Missouri state law and start shipping it everywhere else. Well, in the meantime, we need your help here at New Life Evangelistic Center. We receive no city, state, or federal dollars. Our teams are out every day among the poorest of the poor. They don't need our excuses. They need direct help. We are having to distribute hundreds and hundreds of sandwiches, hundreds and hundreds of bottles of water. We urgently need water. You can bring it to 806 North Jefferson in Springfield or 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. There are so many hurting people. Yes, in Springfield, we get 150, 200 homeless people a day, and most of them sleep outside. So we have to distribute tents and sleeping bags, and long underwear and gloves and socks and hats. Why don't you have a drive at your church and help us at this time? Further information, call us at 1-800-334-3276 or 314-421-3020. That's 314-421-3020. Go to the website at nlecstl.org, and your tax-deductible gifts are urgently needed now. It's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166.
When you partner with New Life Evangelistic Center, you impact so many people. The economy in this country is really hurting so many all over. And we're seeing the number of people who are experiencing homelessness rise. You can make a difference today by giving your gift online at newlifeevangelisticcenter.org. newlifeevangelisticcenter.org. Make a real big change in the lives of so many.
Welcome back. My guest is Greg Carr, author, producer, director, activist. Greg, what's the title you have at Harris-Stowe?
Assistant Professor of Theater.
Assistant Professor of Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you've had positions before regarding theater. You know, tell us about some of your past performances and jobs.
Well, most recently, professionally, I finished directing a production called Top Dog Underdog through a new theater company, a black theater company called Queer and Rising Productions. That was very, very exciting. I also worked directly with a theater group called Call to Conscience Theater.
That's Fannie Libby.
Yeah, Fannie Libby.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working on a piece right now dealing with Martin Luther King and Reverend Earl Nance.
Wow.
Because they met at Lambert Airport.
Morehouse, was it?
Oh, yeah, they met at Morehouse, but they met at the Lambert Airport when King had a layover in 1968, a week before he was assassinated.
Oh, and this is a play you...
It's a play I'm working on.
Wow, that's
and I'm also working on one for Ralph Abernathy because 10 months ago, I was on the Black Rep production of Hold On. Mm-hmm. And Hold On is the original script for the movie Selma.
Wow.
So Selma came from the stage play. So the stage play had never been done. So the author wanted to let the Black Rep do a world premiere of this play, and it was amazing. I got a chance to play Ralph Abernathy.
Wonderful.
And this young man that played Martin Luther King out of Atlanta. I think his name was King. I think his name was Enoch King out of Atlanta. Fantastic actor. Fantastic. I was very privileged to be with this cast. And the most powerful thing, I got a chance to be on stage with the late Tammy Holland.
Oh, wow.
Tammy Holland was in that production, and we just loved her. She took care of us, and she would bring us chicken soup, and she was like one of our mothers in the show, and and I just really miss her. But that's what makes that show so special. We had all these amazing people, and I hadn't done a show in the Black Rep in 20 years. It was my first time, and the most special thing about it was I got a chance to do the show with my son. My son played John Lewis.
Oh, no, wonderful.
Yeah,
man.
so it was one of the first father and son combinations they've had at the Black Rep on stage.
That's been great. I see you brought a book. Tell us about that. What is that book?
Yes, this book is called African American Theater, A Cultural Companion. It's written by Glenda Dickerson. And the reason why I like this, Bernie, is Glenda Dickerson, like myself, is not only a theater artist, she's an activist. And she wrote this book with activism in mind. And she starts from the times of slavery and gives us background on all the great figures, Frederick Douglass, Harry Tubman, Sojourner Truth, all these amazing people. And she works all the way up to the Black Power movement.
Wow.
And so instead of giving my students tests, what we do is we will watch a film that's related to one of the eras. Like, for example, when we were talking about slavery and emancipation, we watched the movie Glory. Me and my students had never seen the movie Glory.
Jeez.
And then we were talking about the progressive era. We watched the movie Daughters of the Dust, which deals with the Gullah culture.
Yeah.
And we always have something. We just recently watched Dreamgirls that kind of falls in place during the Civil Rights era. Our final unit is dealing with the Black Power movement. We've just been talking about Stokely Carmichael, Angela Davis, Amiri Baraka, and we're going to watch The Butler because The Butler deals with both the Civil Rights movement and the Black Power movement within the same family.
This is a butler who was a butler for the White House.
But for the White House,
Sure.
played by Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker, yeah. Greg, you do so much, and how can people reach you, and how can one enroll in your class?
Oh, they can reach me at carg at hssu.edu.
Say that just a little slower.
carg at hssu.edu.
Is there a phone number related to that too?
Yes, my phone number is 314-340-3667. I take all types. I don't discriminate because I've had very young people fresh out of high school in my class, and I've had people in their 60s and 70s in my theater class, and they loved it.
Can I ask you and Ron Himes the same question? You both could have been athletes. You both could have been professional athletes, and yet and still you chose the arts. How did that happen, Greg?
Well, Bernie, I'm glad you asked that question. I was actually at Tarkio College in 1984. I was at William Jewell 1 year, played football at William Jewell a year, and left there very brokenhearted because one of the things that I saw, and I didn't know my own state because I was very young at the time. My parents kind of told me about the state I was in, but I needed to see it from my own two eyes. When I went to William Jewell College, a Baptist college, Christian school, one of the first things I saw it's up on a beautiful hill. And we came there at night. And I know there was like a full moon that night. But as we're coming up the road, I looked to my right and I saw a very plantation-looking house. And in the wind, I saw this huge flag blowing. I said, that looks like a Confederate flag. I said, but I can't see it. I said, Coach, is that a Confederate flag? He goes, Greg, don't worry about that. It's just a fraternity thing. I went, okay. And so I went back the next morning. I looked at it. Bernie, that thing was bigger than American flag. It was hanging from the first floor all the way down.
I can imagine.
It was terrifying. But I said, I'm still going to go here because I like the academics here. They got a great team. I think they had gone to the national championship the year before. I said, I want to be a part of a winning team. And got a chance to play both junior varsity and varsity. Got to play a few varsity games. And at the end of the year, I just said, it's very difficult to be here because we actually protested that flag. And one of my classmates who was in the theater, 'cause I was doing theater at William Jewell, we protested on the president's lawn. And the president said, you kids go home. I don't want to hear more about this. And a voice from the crowd said, you're wrong. You're wrong, sir. you know good and well, if you have Christian values and morals, you know that Confederate flag is incompatible with a Christian ethic. He said, who said that? The young man stepped out of the car. He said, I did. And this man just looked like he had seen a ghost. It was the president's son.
Wow.
He said, Dad, let's go in the house and have a conversation about this. And so they went into the kitchen. They went round and round for about an hour. The president came back out an hour later and said, I had a conversation with a student who just happens to be my son. He's very persuasive. His arguments were very strong. We will drop the flag. And the campus split. People were angry. Oh, that flag, it just means heritage. It doesn't mean anything bad. And so for that very short time, it was very hostile to the very small contingency of blacks on the campus. So we felt like, it didn't feel like 1983. It felt like 1953 for a while.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And so it was very, very, very difficult. So I transferred to Tarkio College. And when I transferred there, I didn't realize because this was in the same conference, I couldn't sit out a semester. I had to sit out a whole year. So during this whole year, I was sitting out. I said, well, maybe I was working on my grades. But then I noticed there was an audition flyer for a show called The Three Sisters. And I said, okay, that sounds pretty good. But it was callbacks only. So I went to the callbacks. I didn't go to the original audition. So the director said, were you here last night? I said, yeah, I was here last night. He goes, I don't remember you. I said, yeah, I'm kind of unmemorable, but I like to read. So I read and he goes, you're very impressive. He goes, I still don't remember you. I said, I know. I just kind of came in and I'm new to the campus. He goes, okay. He ended up casting me in the show.
Wow.
So I had no idea who Anton Chekhov was.
Wow.
I said, who's this Chekhov guy?
Okay. This is interesting. Greg Carr is my guest, and he's so many wonderful stories. I mean, I'm just thrilled. We're going to take a short break and come back and wrap up with Greg Carr after this.
I want to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas, and we have a special gift that we'd like to send to you. You can even get a number of copies of this. It's a New Life Zoll free paper. It's an exciting paper that's got all kinds of stories from homeless people in it. In addition to that, inspirational articles concerning Christmas and just a whole lot of things. And we'll send this to you, of course, free of charge. Or you can drop by our headquarters here at 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri, and pick up a bundle of them if you want and help distribute them to your family and friends. They're a great tool that share the love of God in a very special, powerful way. It talks about how you can help the homeless, how others can help the homeless lives that are being touched, and the true meaning of Christmas. So again, it's totally free of charge. If you'd like a copy, simply contact us here at the New Life Evangelistic Center. Write me and you can just request a copy. Or if you have a number of them, you can contact us at P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166. And remember, we're here to help you and your family, the hurting and the homeless in this community, through the love of Christ.
Today's subject, Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture, born 1941, Port of Spain, Trinidad. In 1961, Carmichael was one of several freedom riders who traveled through the South challenging segregation laws and interstate transportation. He continued his involvement with the civil rights movement with SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, after his graduation with honors from Howard University in 1964. That summer, he joined the Lowndes County, Alabama, for an African-American voter registration drive and helped to organize the Lowndes County Freedom Organization, an independent political party. A Black Panther was chosen the party's emblem, a powerful image that later adopted in homage by the Black Panther Party. In 1966, he became the chairman of SNCC, and during a march in the Mississippi, he rallied demonstrators in founding the Black Power movement, which espoused self-defense tactics, self-determination, political and economic power, and racial pride. He died in 1998. Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture.
It's wonderful to hear the Word of God and be blessed, but the Scripture says we must do more. The Bible says, to him or her knoweth to do good and doeth it not, it's a sin. And also, faith without works is dead. And we're to not only be hearers of the Word, but doers also. NewLifeEvangelisticCenter.org is the website you can go to discover what you can do throughout mid-America to not only be a hearer of the Word, but a doer also. You can also call 1-800-334-3276 or 314-421-3020. Let's be doers of the Word of God.
Welcome back. My guest is Greg Carr from Harris-Stowe State University. Greg is an author, producer, socialist, activist. Social activist, what I'm trying to say. And he's just more than I can imagine, just having him here. Greg, what's in the future for Greg Carr?
Well, Bernie, currently in the future, as I said, we finished our production, our fall production, the Color Museum. A lot of energy, a lot of students want to get involved. They want to know what they can do to get involved. We're going to remount a Black History program called Stamped from the Beginning. It's from a young Black intellectual named Ibram X. Kendi. It's a book, and it's basically a book of speeches from the beginning, the inception of this country, from 1619 all the way up to about 1970.
Wow.
We have individuals like Cotton Mather, who was a minister during that sort of religious enlightenment period, and his take on slavery, which is very, slanted.
Better hear. And you don't hear that word, his name that often.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Thomas Jefferson's take on color. We actually had interracial children. William Lloyd Garrison, who was a white abolitionist. Of course, Frederick Douglass, W.B. Du Bois, even Malcolm X and Angela Davis. So we're going to reenact these speeches. We're going to have music and tie them in with pictures. And then after we finish this, we're going to have a dialogue with the audience on where we stand now over the years of activism.
Where will this venue be?
It'll be at Harris-Stowe State University, the Emerson Performance Center, Bank of America Theater.
Okay, so it's in February.
It'll be in February.
That's wonderful.
So it'll be a great Black History Month opportunity.
That's great. Carr, once again, before we leave, tell us how to reach you.
You can reach me at my email at carg@hssu.edu, and my phone number is 314-340-3667.
And Craig, you also did some things about Ferguson. Could you briefly tell us about that?
Yes. I wrote a play called Live from Ferguson about 7 years ago. And it was my response to my frustration not being able to get out there. I actually got out there one day, Bernie, and walked with the protesters. As soon as they started shooting the tear gas, and I couldn't run as fast as I used to when I was an athlete, couldn't run as fast. I said, time for me to retire. And so I started doing interviews, and I wrote these poems and monologues that I asked my students to perform. They'd never done them before. Amazing production, and it's opened up a huge spate of activism for my students. And I nearly had it produced off Broadway a couple of years ago. I was very close. Some New York producers were interested in producing it, but I still think it's going to get produced on Broadway in the future.
How do you recruit your students?
When I see talent, Bernie, I'll just go up to somebody and say, something, I think you got talent. I need you to come and audition for my show. I need you to be in my show. Or I'll see people in my class. And even in the book that I showed you, what we do, instead of giving tests for this class, after each of the chapters, I have a student write a first-person narrative as if they were in that era.
Great.
And at the end of the class, the final exam is they're going to choose one of those first-person narratives and perform it as if they were that character.
Greg, in February, will you come back and tell us about what's going on in the Emerson?
Absolutely, would love to.
Because it's going to sound like a wonderful African-American history piece. So what's your inspiration? I mean, just as an artist.
I'll go back to my parents.
Okay.
My parents, they were just my heroes because they did so much with so little, and they had an abiding faith in God. They were very strong Christian people, and I love them. I've actually written plays about them. One of the plays we're going to do in the future is a play I wrote called Stormy Monday. And Stormy Monday is based upon my father coming up from Kentucky to work in St. Louis at the Chrysler plant. And it's also centers around the tornado of '59.
Wow, that's interesting. It's so nice to see you and hear you and see how you're inspired by such wonderful events. Some tragic, some eventful. But it's wonderful. Greg Carr, just say, in February, we hope to have you back and tell us about what's going on at the Black History.
Be my pleasure.
Stuff at Emerson. Thank you, and thanks to each and every one of you for viewing the talent show here today. New Life Evangelistic Center. Reverend Larry Rice has been here for more than 50 years, 52 years in fact, doing things for those in need. Thank you very, very much for supporting us, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.